Okay, let's dive into this. If you are a business leader, an executive, or really just someone trying to make sense of the absolute tidal wave of artificial intelligence news out there lately, you are exactly in the right place. Today, we're conducting a pragmatic executive risk audit of what some folks are starting to call the trillion-dollar AI illusion. Think about the generative AI industry like a massive iceberg, right? Above the surface, it looks incredible. You see these astronomical valuations, super slick automated interfaces, and promises of basically infinite productivity. But beneath the surface, well, there are massive, hidden liabilities lurking down there. We're talking financial, operational, and structural realities that severely threaten the bottom line of any company that's rushing blindly into this hype. To anchor this explainer immediately, just look at this staggering number, $600 billion, with a B. Back in 2024, analysts over at Sequoia Capital looked at the absolutely massive amounts big tech was spending on AI infrastructure, and they posed a really simple question. How much money would the AI industry actually need to make every single year just to justify that level of spending? The answer is $600 billion. Now sure, generative AI is making real money today. Billions in annual revenue, in fact. But when companies like OpenAI and xAI are burning through billions of dollars just to keep the lights on and their steep operating costs completely eclipse those revenues, we are nowhere close to break even, not even in the same zip code.
So here is our roadmap for today's risk audit. We'll be looking at 1. The AI profit disconnect. 2. The hidden human workforce. 3. Massive operational overhead. 4. The corporate security blind spot. And 5. Echoes of the dot-com bubble. We're explicitly moving past the hype here to look at the hard realities.
All right, Section 1, the AI profit disconnect. High capex versus measurable returns. Surveys currently show that roughly 90% of CEOs believe AI will fundamentally change their companies by 2028. But the financial data? It tells a pretty brutal story. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why. We're all so used to the economics of traditional software, right? In traditional SaaS, once you build the product, adding user number 10,000 or a million is incredibly cheap, high margins. The cost of serving that next customer is practically zero. But generative AI scaling does not work like that at all. It's a low-margin game. Every single time you ask an AI a question, it costs real money. That answer requires a delicate, intensive interplay of extremely expensive computational power and electricity. So scaling up doesn't automatically make things cheaper or more efficient. In a really ironic twist, the more people use the system, the more expensive it actually becomes to run.
Which brings us to this, honestly, quite alarming reality. Out of all these companies scrambling to integrate AI right now, only 25% are actually delivering their expected return on investment. 75% are failing to deliver. What we're really seeing out there is essentially corporate peer pressure. Executives are out buying up massive quantities of GPUs purely because not buying them looks worse to the board. Yet, only about 1 in 4 executives can actually explain how AI directly makes them money. Because of this, the financial gains we do see are highly concentrated. 75% of the financial benefits are being reaped by just 20% of the companies. Moving right along to Section 2, the hidden human workforce, unmasking the illusion of automation. So the marketing language around AI strongly suggests complete autonomy, right? Machines that think and act entirely on their own, seamlessly replacing human effort. But peel back that clean, automated interface, and you find a really messy, labor-intensive inner core. Look at this stark quote regarding content moderators: psychological trauma, poverty wages, and the suppression of union organizing conditions. These are conditions that would be completely intolerable under Western labor laws. In places like Kenya, the Philippines, and India, thousands of hidden workers spend their entire days painstakingly correcting the mistakes that these AI systems make, sometimes for just a couple of dollars an hour. This isn't some glorious futuristic breakthrough. These are 19th century style labor conditions. And honestly, they are the only thing keeping these raw AI systems from spitting out completely chaotic and embarrassing outputs. So what exactly are they doing all day? Well, it's these highly manual tasks that actually sustain the AI. Data labeling, content moderation, output verification, error correction. Rather than being a pristine, self-improving machine, AI is actually a hybrid system. It relies heavily on this human labor to constantly correct its mistakes. And here's the kicker for your operational budget. This human cost structure doesn't just magically disappear as the AI scales. As the system grows, this manual human support actually becomes even more critical and vastly more expensive. Which naturally leads us to Section 3, massive operational overhead, the physical walls of digital models. You might be surprised to hear this, but the deepest constraint on the AI industry right now isn't actually financial, it's physical. These digital models are hitting a massive energy wall, and they are pushing local power and water grids to their absolute breaking points. By 2022, global data centers were already consuming 460 terawatt hours of electricity. To put that abstract number into perspective for you, that is the exact same amount of power used by the entire country of Germany, or Japan. By 2024, estimates suggest that number could skyrocket up to 1,000 terawatt hours. A single 100 megawatt hyperscale facility, the exact kind they are rapidly building for AI right now, uses enough electricity in a year to charge over 200,000 electric vehicles. Let that sink in. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how that immense energy is actually being used inside the data center. Only 40% of the electricity goes toward actual computing, the part where the AI actually does its job. Another 20% goes to general operations, but a massive 40% is used just to cool the systems down. Nearly half the power poured into AI doesn't make the AI any smarter. It literally just stops these multi-million-dollar servers from melting. And how exactly do they cool them? Water. 100 million. That is the number of gallons of water a single mid-sized facility can burn through annually just to stay cool. And here's the worst part. Most of that water doesn't return to the source. In many of these systems, 70 to 80% is actively lost to evaporation. With up to 90% of data centers relying on water-based cooling, they are pulling from the exact same municipal supplies that serve local communities. It's putting an immense, totally unsustainable strain on long-term local resources. Okay, Section 4, the corporate security blind spot. Productivity pressures tricking policies. So, while AI is aggressively draining physical resources on the outside, it is quietly siphoning proprietary data from the inside of your organization. Check out this figure, 34.8%. Over a third of employee inputs into AI right now contains sensitive information. We're talking highly confidential legal documents, customer data, medical records, source code, the whole shebang. Yet, 83% of companies have absolutely zero technical controls in place to stop it from happening. Why? Well, because leadership turns around the very next day and tells employees to be faster and more productive. And when an employee is forced to choose between a vague company policy and a strict looming deadline, they are going to pick the deadline every single time. Let's look at how this actually plays out in the real world. You might remember the infamous Samsung case from early 2023. This is a perfect example of an uncontrolled corporate data leak. Step 1. They lift an internal ban on ChatGPT. Step 2. An employee immediately uploads proprietary source code just to quickly debug a problem. Step 3. Another employee copies highly sensitive internal meeting notes right into their feed. Step 4. The ban is swiftly and frantically reinstated. The profound danger here is that these public AI models train on these inputs. Once your trade secrets are ingested, the damage is permanent. You can't just click a button and delete it. As security researchers point out, it's literally like trying to unmix paint. Finally, Section 5, echoes of the dot-com bubble, the looming market correction. So if this whole system is wildly expensive, extremely resource-intensive, leaking corporate data, and broadly struggling to turn a measurable profit, why on earth does the industry continue this frantic arms race? Well, the real bottleneck right now is semiconductors. Demand for chips from TSMC is currently running at triple the global supply. Tech companies are desperately hoarding chips years in advance, creating this massive squeeze on specialized memory that the industry is playfully, but nervously, calling Ramageddon. And guys, the parallels to history here are just undeniable. Look back at the 1990s internet boom. Companies executed a massive fiber and server overbuild, totally assuming infinite demand. The hype severely outpaced the realistic timelines. Now look at the 2020s AI boom. A massive GPU and data center overbuild where capital burn is drastically outpacing ROI. Right now, the chip manufacturers are quite literally the only guaranteed winners in this gold rush. We have to remember what happens when massive infrastructure buildouts fail to meet their instant profitability assumptions. Remember this number? 76%. When the dot-com bubble finally burst, the Nasdaq lost 76% of its value. Companies saw their stock prices tank practically overnight, all because they couldn't turn the profit their investors had dreamed up. Look, the internet wasn't fake, obviously, but the timeline for that dramatic overvaluation absolutely was. Today's AI systems are being built on those exact same dangerous assumptions: infinite demand and instant productivity. So the crucial question you have to ask yourself today is this:
If assumptions of infinite demand and instant productivity slip, are you prepared for the correction? Because let me tell you, if those returns don't show up fast enough, the economic fallout won't just stay neatly contained in the tech sector. It's going to land everywhere. I challenge you to take the insights from this explainer back to your leadership teams. Critically audit your own AI investments and make absolutely sure you aren't just scrambling to justify the billions you've already spent. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one.